It was the news that the alkali attacker from Clapham Common had, despite having two convictions, one for sexual assault and another slightly less serious, was the fact that he converted to Christianity, which was the reason why on the third attempt he was granted his asylum. That has opened up a story that we've heard before, but never quite in this magnitude. And the Times newspaper's done a really very, very good job. They even found a Baptist minister in South Wales who had baptised up to 500 asylum seekers, but admitted he never saw at least 60% of them ever again. And the news that 1 in 10 of the Bibby Stockholm have converted to Christianity and are regulars at the Baptist Church. And we learn there are literally people who've committed murder and rapists who've been allowed to stay in the country because they say they've converted to Christianity. And this from people who've entered the country illegally in the first place. I find the attitude of some of our churches naive in the extreme. And I'm very pleased to be joined by the Reverend Sally Smith, project leader at Sanctus, which is an organisation that exists to help asylum seekers, and former team vicar at St Mark's Church, Stoke-on-Trent. Sally, thank you for joining us. Now, I know that you yourself have been involved in welcoming people from the Muslim faith into the Christian faith, but I thought that if somebody who was a Muslim converted to Christianity, that made them guilty of apostasy, which is thought to be a terrible crime in Islam.
Well, that's true. And I think the fact is, if we think about countries like Iran, for instance, where a lot of the people that came to my former church were from, that it was illegal to even explore other faiths. Even the churches in Iran don't allow Muslims to go to them unless they're underground churches, because the priests there will be targeted by the state for allowing non-traditional Christians into their buildings. So it is a huge lifestyle change for people to decide to discard Islam or whatever other faith they've come from, and to embrace Christianity.
Yes, I mean, it is a very, very big step, and I agree with you on that point. All of which makes me more suspicious about why such large numbers of young men are doing it. I mean, you yourself, I think you've admitted that not every person you've baptised has been genuine. So is it worth us going through this process?
Well, I think we could say the same about anything, any support system that's there to help people. So, for instance, disability payments. We know that many people falsely claim PIP, but that doesn't mean we scrap all of the whole system of support for disabled people because there are just a few people who are using that system nefariously and abusively.
No, but I mean, given that, attendance at church over the last few years has fallen very sharply, the idea that a significant number of these young men have suddenly converted to Christianity and want to go to church. I mean, look, we're being taken for a ride, aren't we? That's the point I'm making. And when you hear that people who've committed murder or rape suddenly say they've converted to Christianity, they can't go back home because they'll be persecuted. I mean, this is our system, isn't it, being taken for the most gigantic ride amidst growing public anger.
I mean, I think if you look with open eyes, if you're not narrow in your viewpoints, and you look at what's happening in Iran. I mean, a young man was sentenced to death, was actually killed the other day for supporting the movement of the young women and the young men that are supporting them to not have to wear a hijab. And I think it's really good that lots and lots of young people, this young generation, are striking out against the confines of the religions that they've been born into, and want to break out and to explore other religions, other faiths, other ways of living their lives, other ways of worshipping God, and other ways of presenting themselves in the community. In any cross-section of any community, you are going to get people who commit criminal acts. And yes, that is something that's just about being human and living together in human community.
Sally, I get that.
Church.
I get that, but, we learn that the alkali attacker from Clapham Common said he'd converted to Christianity, was allowed to stay, was given his asylum on the third attempt, and yet continued to act and pray as a Muslim. I mean, that is just an outrage, isn't it?
Yeah, that shows that he was, if that's what he was doing. I mean, I don't know about that case personally, only what I've read and seen on the news.
Yeah.
And so he would be one of those small percent of people that are disingenuous in their conversion to Christianity.
All right.
But the whole thing about the Christian faith is that it isn't something that began in England for all British people. The whole story of the gospel of Jesus, which people are turning to, is built around a refugee family who fled from one country to another due to political persuasion and skullduggery and the mixture of religious leaders with politicians and all of the nefarious situations that arise out of that. That is the story of the gospel. And actually the story of Christianity is something that transcends national identities, ethnicities. It's something that is looking forward to a new world where we can care for one another and love one another and support each other and forgive each other.
I understand that, and if I thought these young men coming forward were genuine, I might take a very different view. But thank you, Sally Smith, for sharing your experiences